Hello there, this is David Hayden Jones, otherwise known as Mr. Ketch on Supernatural, and you are listening to Kneel Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Hello, and welcome to another powered edition of Kneel Before Pod. I'm your host Craig McKenzie, and this conversation is on the critically maligned Marvel TV show Inhumans. Strap in, because this is going to be a bumpy ride. Joining me live from the moon, I think, is Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hello. I'm really sorry if my mic sounds bad. I'm having to wear my helmet because with the little bubble of atmosphere here on the moon is gone. But yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, I mean it's totally still here. I mean I'm on the moon. Woo.
I think together we make up about 20% of the viewing audience of this of this thing. You know, so
yeah.
With the other 80% being other people that have to review it because they're paid to, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the people that
watch
are
this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's betrayed what my initial thoughts are. So we're here to talk about Inhumans in its entirety. We talked about it before. Just the IMAX presentation, such as it was. So go back and listen to that if you want to know more about the first two episodes. But I don't know, if you're listening to this, you've watched the show, and why are you listening to this? But never mind. So yeah, Inhumans. Marvel can do no wrong, apparently. Except this.
Apart from this, yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on Inhumans without spoiling it for anybody?
Oh, too late. I think I've already spoiled some of it. But yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I'm a little bit disappointed in this. I'm a big bit disappointed, actually. It's been very meh, as in not great, not the worst thing ever to appear on television, but just very bland, difficult to describe to people without them having watched it.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. My thoughts are a bit more extreme, but I suppose I had to spend more time thinking about it than you did. I did not like it at all. Well, I liked some little things, which we'll come on to later, but generally speaking, I wasn't impressed. I thought it was absurdly plotted, the acting was all over the place, the characters were all over the place, there was all sorts of problems. It's systemic issues as well, so the thing is, they just got worse as the show went on, because it wasn't as if they were in mind to fix them, because they didn't know they were broken, although they should have, because some of these decisions they made were just bafflingly ridiculous. But yeah, does it improve from the pilot that we saw in IMAX? Probably not. Although there are some episodes that are slightly better than that, I think. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, it's overall it's not the best thing ever, is it?
No, definitely not. So I don't have anything else to say without spoiling, so shall we use our spoiler dog to teleport into the spoiler section?
Oh, I love the spoiler dog. Bring on the spoiler dog.
The spoiler dog, yeah. Okay, that was a rough trip, but now we're in spoiler section, so we can chat about whether
we go for the quad bike. Oh God! Did you just hear the sound there of the quad bike hitting the spoiler dog? Oh no!
No, they didn't, because I didn't edit that.
Totally did. They totally just did. I can't believe that. I mean, it just happened just off mic. Well, that's why you didn't hear it, but it totally did. Please edit the quad bike in, Craig. I only ask for these little things.
I'll try, but I'm not promising anything. So if you heard a quad bike, then I succeeded. If you didn't, then I either couldn't do it or couldn't be bothered.
I didn't wish hard enough.
Yeah. So, spoilers. So the pilot was what it was. It kind of spent an hour and a half trying to get them to Earth, and then once they got to Earth, nothing really happened. It just kind of ended. From there, nothing really happens of import. I think, for me, the characters don't go through any specific arcs that enrich them as individuals. The villain goes from being the best thing about it to comically insane. The story is just nonsense. and a bit of a rip-off of Thor, interestingly. I mean, I don't even like the first Thor film, and I would rather watch it over this. So yeah, it's problematic, and I can't believe that Marvel made it.
That's something I've kind of been struggling with after watching the final episode. Was like, I can't believe this has come from the same place that has made. I mean, even if you take the TV universe and you go Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and I suppose it could be the same place that created Iron Fist. But you look at these things and you think, how have they managed to come up with this, and how has it got to the stage where it's been released? I don't know if this is a case of where they sort of painted themselves in the corner by announcing it at Comic-Con with the big logo behind them, and they've went, oh Christ, now we've actually got to make it. Oh no. It's like, we don't want to back down, because then the narrative will be how we backed out of doing it and, cancelled it at the last minute, so we'll just go for it. Despite the fact they knocked it from movie to sort of not quite movie to TV show. I don't... It's a weird story of how this has got to air, really. So,
yeah, and I was actually quite excited when I heard that they were downgrading it to a TV show. Downgrading used in inverted commas, because superheroes have a lot of potential on television. There's more time, for one thing, so you can tell smaller stories. If the Inhumans was a blockbuster film, it would be very razzle-dazzle. There'd be lots of beauty shots of the moon. There'd be all sorts of powers on display and things like that. And then, if you look at it analogous to how the Gifted are currently doing things, where the powers are connected to the story and connected to the characters, there's the potential on television. So, you can't afford to use the powers very often, but when you do, they're important because they move things forward in some way rather than just being kind of empty spectacle. I mean, you do get the empty spectacle as well, but in its purest form, in its best form, it can be used to enhance things. And this show had almost no powers throughout. Like 8 episodes, hardly anybody ever uses any powers.
And even when they build up an episode to someone using the powers that they've been hinting at for the entire series, it is one of the most boring things.
Well, we mentioned in the pilot one how Medusa got her hair cut, and she doesn't get it back at all. She just spends the whole series without essentially her one distinguishing trait. So the thing that's iconic about her in the comics is her long red hair that she can control like snakes.
But they essentially do it to all of them. I mean, you've even got Karnak without his ability, and all that was putting graphics on screen. It was, it's kind of like they just went, we're going to get rid of all the powers, so let's make this a bit cheaper.
I mean, can we talk a little bit about what the characters were doing when they were on Earth? It was nonsense. Medusa was running around looking for Black Bolt. Fair enough. Black Bolt was hanging about at a lab for a bit.
Karnak was growing cannabis. He was at a cannabis farm. He had a little cannabis adventure, and I'm going, okay, fair enough. It's a story that it goes places in a weird way, but why? And then you've got Gorgon and his beach pals, his army beach buddies.
Surfer dude soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
Now, who hasn't done that before?
Yeah. And Crystal with Dave. He looks like, you've got like discount Chris Hemsworth. This is like pound shop Chris Hemsworth. Or 99-cent store for our American listeners.
I didn't know there was a scale of Hemsworth. I'm going to have to look that one up, like a Richter scale of Hemsworth. I didn't know that's how we were judged now.
Chris would be the alpha Hemsworth, then you have Liam, and then Luke, who no one's heard of, and then guys that look like him, and then this guy, Dave.
Quad biking Dave.
Quad biking Dave. Oh, he was the worst.
And yeah, I can kind of see what they wanted to do, and I don't know if it's because of the sort of 8-episode length that it struggled to tell whether they had wanted to do these stories in a longer form but just didn't, or I'm struggling to kind of work out if that's what their intention was, and they ended up getting told, oh no, it's only going to be 8 episodes, so this long strung out romance we're going to chop down to its bare bones, and you're just going to have them in a tent on the cannabis farm, and he's just going to hit the dog with his quad bike, and they're going to quickly fall in love and then quickly split up again because we don't know how to wrap this up, so she's just going to vanish with the dog. And that's it, you know.
Yeah, none of these confusing side plots were wrapped up. They just left.
It was, you know, I'm needed elsewhere. Goodbye. Yeah. And that's it. And the way. And you're going, okay. I didn't know if I was expecting to see those characters at the end. You know, you finish with them on Earth. So I was like, well, are they going to rope the characters in? You kind of get the hint that Crystal was wanting to go back to Earth anyway, even if they had saved, you know, the city, that she had said, oh, I want to go back. You know, I don't want to be up here, I want to go back.
Because she really likes Dave for some reason.
Yeah, well, he's the first person that's not treated her like a princess.
He teaches her how to hang loose.
Yeah, how to chill and yeah. Do you ever just go and hang somewhere? No, I just walk about with my dog.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think the Karnak story was probably. I mean, it's all a kind of relative scale, but it was the worst, mostly because every other character was all about I need to find the family or cousins or whatever they were. They need to find the others, whereas Karnak didn't seem that bothered. He was happy to cut about on this weed farm, growing weed while sleeping with some chick.
Yeah, I mean, he started out on his little quest, going, "Yeah, I'm gonna find them. They must be this way." And he goes off and he ends up walking in circles and stuff. So he does set out with the intentions, and then he decides, "Oh no, I'm worthless. There's no point in me finding anyone because look at me." And that's when he sort of resigns himself to being on the farm. But all the extra drama with your sort of drug lord henchman and the betrayal of I can't even remember the character's name who decides he's going to kill everyone so that he can get a cut. He gets a bigger cut. And you're like, where did all this sudden drama come out of the cannabis farm? You know, they had the little commune going, and then suddenly we're into drug lords and a big chase that seemed to just set up the kind of fight scene when they meet each other. And you're like, well, was that necessary? I don't know.
Yeah, although when they let Karnak fight, it was really cool. Eventually, because what's his name? Ken Leung. He's an accomplished martial artist. So the first two episodes, when he fought in those, it was really awkwardly done. It was very slow. It was very lumbering and so on. But when he actually got to fight in the rare occasions he did on the actual in the body of the other episodes, it was cool. You know, I mean, it wasn't the best action in the world, but there was some good martial arts stuff going on there.
Well, there's some neat, yeah, like you say, I mean, he got some of the best fight choreography out of it. I've got to give them credit when they had Black Bolt doing hand-to-hand combat. Some of those scenes actually looked quite well done, particularly in the final episode. Yeah. I mean, it's not really hand-to-hand combat that you want to see him doing, but it was very well done when they did it, yeah.
Yeah, that was fine. Medusa didn't do much. She just cut about looking entitled or sounding entitled. Again, it was my problem with all the characters. None of them developed. So they were all pretty racist at the start of the show, and pretty racist by the end of it, really. Medusa still felt she was better than humanity and refused to listen, although Louise helped her realise that at least Louise isn't that bad. No one else, but Louise ain't that bad.
But all they seemed to learn was there's some exemptions to our racism.
Yeah, I quite like this guy, and that's as far as I'm prepared to go.
It's the equivalent of, I'm not racist, I have one black friend. And that's it, yeah.
Yeah, and they were all kind of, racist. Crystal was very entitled. I don't know if she was especially racist. She was naive, I suppose. Although what she was changed from one scene to the next. At one point, she's a entitled princess type. At another, she's a bit racist, or she's always the entitled princess. You know, she makes Iris and the Flash look like she's selfless, but and she doesn't give a crap about her dog. She's like, you need to make Lockjaw better so I can teleport. It's like, not because he'll be better, it's because we need to teleport.
I need to teleport out of here.
Yeah. And Lockjaw is needed for that, but for nothing else. I don't really care if he's injured, I just want him to teleport me all over the place. I suppose it's one of those creative ways to get the dog out of frame for a little while, because he's expensive.
Yeah, it's the regular sort of writer's trap of why would they go a walk if they have the teleporting dog? Okay, get rid of the teleporting dog. Okay, now they can go for a walk. It gives them an excuse to stay still and meet Dave.
Which is a really terrible Eddie Murphy film. Meet Dave. That's the one film I've walked out of the cinema on, but that's another story.
The only one, really?
The only one I can think of, yeah. I just couldn't take it anymore. That's another story. It's way off topic. If you want to hear the story, then I don't know, tell me, and I'll
subscribe to our premium payments.
We have no premium service. We have enough trouble getting people to subscribe to the free service. No, if you want to hear the story, tell me, and I'll regale you with it on the next podcast.
All right, okay.
Because it's way off topic. So we kind of jumped around all the characters. I think it's probably worth focusing on Medusa a bit, because a lot of the screen time is spent with her. I quite like that episode, even though she just happens upon someone's house and stuff like that. But I quite like the part where she had that moment where she saw herself in the mirror and she kind of thought about everything that she'd lost. So that was quite a nice little moment. It was well acted as well. Like, there's nothing wrong with Serinda Swan's acting ability, or anyone else in the show, really. Except maybe the actress that plays Crystal. She has nothing to work with. But I thought it was a nice moment, and I think she had quite a lot of kind of introspective stuff throughout. So there was points where she was trying to act as if her beliefs were wavering slightly, but the dialogue and what was actually going on didn't support it. But the performance was heading that way.
Yeah, I do think I kind of agree with you overall. I don't think any of them are particularly bad actors. I just think a lot of the material and direction they've been given has been pants. Like you say, there was a good moment where walking about. I liked that they played about. They couldn't decide, in my opinion, whether they wanted to play for comedy with that. You know, the fact that she's found a street called the Royal Palace or Royal Palaces, and she just decides, oh, I'm just going to go in here, take all this. I'm a royal. I can have any of the stuff that I want. It's fine, you know. You know, I found that quite funny to an extent. But yeah, she has gone through a trauma, I suppose, with losing her hair like that, and they didn't play it as much as I thought they would. You know, she's still a very capable fighter, she's still very strong, and she seems to get over the brunt of it pretty quickly. When you consider this has been like a great part of her for years, you know, I found that a little bit surprising. But I don't know whether that is another factor of this sort of 8-episode thing where they're like, oh, we've got to move on from this very quickly, otherwise it's bogged down and we're going to have to resolve it too quickly within 1 episode. So if we resolve it quickly within 3, then we're sorted, you know.
I think 8 episodes is plenty, though. I mean, if you focus what your story is actually supposed to be about, which is not what this show did. Yeah. You know, if you stop wasting time with Karnak hanging around a weed plantation, which we're going to keep coming back to as a really stupid thing to do, I think. But, you know, there is time for that. There's time to explore the characters. You shouldn't have them apart for... When did they get back together? Episode 5 or 6? So that's a long time to have them apart. But they could have got them back together sooner or paired them up. Because then you get to kind of explore their experiences a little bit. Relative to each other, and rather than them just bumping into random humans all over the place.
Yeah, it wasn't really until episode 6 where they're all united. You've had odd pairings that have managed to meet up by episode 5, but apart from that, they're separate throughout. And as much as I suppose they were trying to go for they all meet humans and they all learn that there's nice humans out there. At the same time, I would have preferred to have seen some of them paired up, even go for non-obvious pairs.
Yeah.
So put Crystal with Karnak and Gorgon with Medusa and Black Bolt with whoever, do it that way. Rather than they all go on a little mini adventure, which, some of which are slightly better than others.
Yeah. And Medusa's relationship with Black Bolt, I think, was reasonably well done. I mean, the fact that it was fairly one-sided because she had to speak for him, because he couldn't speak and he wasn't using actual sign language. And one way around that was, I suppose, they could have just subtitled his sign language so that you knew what he was kind of saying, but they didn't bother doing that, which is fair enough, I suppose. They just... it's actually a true adaptation of the comic character. He doesn't speak, that's fine. I kind of thought they would try and find some way around that, and I suppose they did with people understanding his sign language or Medusa speaking for him or whatever they decided to do. But I think the relationship was fairly well developed. The two actors had pretty decent chemistry together, and whenever they shared the screen, there was that familiarity to them that I quite liked. Again, it's not a relationship I was terribly invested in, because I didn't like any of them. I mean, Black Bolt probably suffered less because he can't speak, but we'll get to him. But I didn't like Medusa that much. I wasn't rooting for her, and I didn't want her to succeed, so there was only so far I could be invested in what was going on and into their relationship, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, there was one line that sort of interested me and suddenly made me look at the relationship in a slightly different way, and I don't know if I picked it up wrong, but when she says, when I first went to see you, it was to see you humiliated. To see you having lost everything that I had lost, and then I saw that you needed help, or that we were the same, and that kind of made me look at it a little bit differently. I would need to watch it back if I cared enough to sort of pick up the proper phrasing of it. But it sort of made me look at the relationship in a different way. It was like, it wasn't that she went there to help. Originally, she went up there just to go, this is how I felt.
Yeah, although they kept doing that with the flashbacks. Like, you kept returning to the ones that they'd done in the first couple of episodes, and they kept adding little bits to them that changed the meaning. So what you had was, I think it was in the pilot, or whatever, the first or second episode, one of them, Medusa turns up and says that she's not afraid of him, and then the relationship starts. And then they reveal she turned up because she was annoyed that her parents had been banished in inverted commas, probably means killed, and she wanted to kind of, get revenge in some way, and then she softened to him, which didn't make that much sense to me. I was kind of okay with the fact that she was drawn to him because he was an outcast initially, without this kind of, I didn't like you, so I went to, I don't know, hit you with my hair or something like that. But incidentally, I do love that the actress playing young Medusa is actually called VIP, according to IMDb. I'm pretty sure that's not her real name, but that's what she goes by.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, they did that with a couple of the flashbacks, actually. Now that you're saying that, sort of changing the meaning of flashbacks. The Black Bolt's parents' death scene.
Yeah, it turned
they
out
then
like
changed
manipulated
around.
or something.
Yeah, it was manipulated all the time by Maximus, who had forged documents, and I was trying to work out, I was like, what did they forge? So the documents were that they were going to, lobotomize him? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, something about to experiment on him or something.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
experiment on him to stop him talking, and then that way no one can get hurt. I couldn't work out what had happened there, because it sort of all got crammed in very quickly.
Yeah. I guess the problem with Black Bolt as a character was that they didn't use his lack of speech very well. So what happened was you had a character that just was whatever the scene needed him to be. So there was a point where they were talking about the plight of all the lower class Inhumans, which is fine. And he gives a look to the camera that suggests, I never thought about it like that. His facial expression suggests that he's a little bit surprised by what he's heard. And his mind is open. But then the next episode is back to, I'm the king, whatever. And then there's a bit later where he turns out he's been lying to Medusa the whole time about a bunker or something, about the bunker and something else.
Well, it's the plan. It's the whole fact that the character that dies at the very beginning isn't actually dead. Surprise, surprise.
Yes, that's right. Triton. Yeah, he's been raiding Triton this whole time.
Yeah, Frogman jumps into the sea and survives. Who'd have thought it?
No. Wow.
Oh, looking back retrospectively, it does seem kind of obvious that Frogman would survive in the sea. But, you know, he keeps that a secret. He's always planned to be at that beach at that particular time.
Yeah,
I don't know. Did that?
Yeah.
I couldn't work out if he had managed to signal him in some way or if I just missed it. But it was like he walked up to the beach and he arrived, and it was like, oh yeah, I planned to be here exactly now. I planned for all these delays and all of you to get scattered to the four winds across across the island, and we'd all meet right here, right now.
Here's my headcanon. He went and spoke into the ocean, creating like a sonar thing.
I'm assuming something like that, but the thing is, if he did that, I didn't see it.
It didn't happen.
Completely glossed over it in my mind.
Headcanon, yeah. Complete headcanon. And I just made it up there. I didn't even think about it. I was more annoyed by that point. I was like, what's going on? Why are they adding all this in? What's going on? And Medusa's like, I can't believe you lied to me. And then it's like, can't believe you lied to us about this bunker. And it's like, newsflash, if he didn't omit the information about the bunker, you wouldn't be able to use it because Maximus would know about it.
Yeah, Maximus would also know about your secret bunker. But in the last episode, he takes Maximus down to the bunker with the intention to lock him in. And Maximus goes, of course, this bunker was the first building that we ever put on the moon. And I'm like, so he did know about the bunker? He didn't know about the bunker. Has he been researching the bunker since he escaped the last time round? Because he didn't escape. So when did he suddenly research the bunker? Well, that's it. I know there is a bunker, but more headcanon. Great. I love it. We're making a great TV show in our minds.
Fill in all the gaps.
Let's fill in everything that we missed. But so he then goes, oh yeah, this is the oldest building. This will last a long time. And great. And you're like, all right, brilliant.
Yeah. There's enough food here for an eternity. It's like, all right, cool.
Looks like about 4 shelves to me, but eternity it is.
Looks like someone's about to get stuck there for eternity. Yeah, but that was bizarre. So yeah, you had this whole bit about Black Bolt lied, and then Medusa forgets about it. Or she doesn't forget about it, but she just kind of brushes it aside, and she's like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. And I don't know, it's like they were just throwing these things in because something had to happen within the plot, but they didn't bother doing anything with it. So the whole point of Black Bolt lying to Medusa was so that Medusa could be annoyed by him and then want to have her own say. But then she never has her own say after that. So what's the point?
But there was no need for the secrecy once they were on Earth. Once they had both met up and they're driving about in the convertible being chauffeur driven around. At that point, you could turn to her and go, oh, and by the way, he's alive, and I have a plan for going back, and here it is.
Yeah.
As much as it would be a rubbish revelation to us, because he would be signing, and we wouldn't know what he was saying.
I knocked something over, that's what that
noise was. Right. As much as it would be a rubbish revelation, because he would be signing, and we wouldn't know what he's saying, at least then she could go, oh, what do you mean he's alive? And then they could fade to black or whatever. And that would just, you'd be like, okay, fine, he explained the plan at that point. I don't see why he wouldn't have told her then.
And also, by the time they reintroduced Triton, I'd forgot he was in it. Because it'd been so long. But the thing is, I really like Triton. I think in the comics he's one of the better Inhuman characters. And I think they did a good version of him here. Although he wasn't really a character, he was just a function of like badass action stuff. But it looked cool and he did it. But so in that sense, he's probably one of the better adapted because he doesn't suffer from the horrible characterization they gave to everyone else.
But the thing is, being a neat character, you could have brought him back at any point. When Gorgon arrived back and stomped his foot at the edge of the sea, you could have had him come back at that point, and it wouldn't really have affected much of the plot, apart from changed a couple of the motivations. And even then, their motivations aren't so much now about getting revenge for his death, it's more, we want to get back to the moon at that point. I want to be reunited with the rest of the family and get to the moon to get my revenge for being sent down here. Not even so much for the death of Triton.
Yeah. And then they did some weird things as well once they reunited the characters. So by episode 7, they established that Gorgon and Karnak actually quite a fun pairing. So when they're cutting about through the facility, trying to rescue Dr. Declan and his band of scientists, if that's what they really are, that was a really fun dynamic. They bounce off each other well. I quite like the measured tactician versus the kind of brutish, I don't want to say moron, but the brutish type character. And they even did that kind of flashback where they showed how impulsive Gorgon was by stealing a flag and stuff. That was all well and good. And then by the end of the episode, they kill Gorgon just because, for no reason really. I mean, it makes no sense. But they finally find a dynamic that actually works, and then they take it away from you immediately after.
Yeah. It was one of those things where you're like, I wish those two had been kind of cutting about with each other since they had landed, rather than only getting united in that episode. And it would have made his death seem more effective.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, it would have hit more. When you see that Karnak is willing to sort of throw everything away, be impulsive, and just go and put him through a second Pterogenesis, you're like, well, that doesn't... Even the other characters go, well, that doesn't seem like you at all. And you're like, well, yeah, why is he doing that? Whereas I think if you had seen them cutting about on Earth up until that point, you'd be like, oh, right, I kind of follow that now. I understand why he would be that impulsive.
And it would have been a great little arc. Well, it might not have been great. It would have been a better little arc for Karnak, where he doesn't have his powers, so you could still do that nonsense if you really wanted to. And he has to learn to be more like Gorgon, act without knowing what the consequences will be, which is essentially what he learns. He learns kind of how to do that throughout, but it would have been much better if he was bouncing off Gorgon the whole time, because then you could have had an episode or two of him just being like, no, I can't be like you keep making mistakes, blah, 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 and then by the end of it, he's just like, right, screw it, I see the merit in this now.
And with his lack of powers at the beginning, they could still have the threat of, the humans chasing and the odd Inhumans coming to try and get Gorgon. It still would have worked that way. It wouldn't
Mortis
have been
with his
too powerful.
hilarious mask thing.
Yeah. What was his power? His power was he takes the mask off and everyone dies.
Cyclops eyes.
Cyclops, uncontrollable Cyclops face.
Yeah. Beams that fire out his eyes, and they keep talking about how he's like an unpredictable wild card force of nature, and you never see that. Again, so much dialogue telling you things that they don't bother to show you.
He's just a bit of a sarcastic guy in a mask.
Yeah.
The majority of the time going, oh, I sure wish we had someone that would control the forest to get these bloody branches out of the way. Oh, there she is. Right, okay.
Oh, wait,
he just doesn't seem... And then at the end, his solution doesn't seem to work, because it's like, oh, I'm going to... Not just going to kill them, I'm going to kill the entire team that came down here with me as well. All you guys are going... I've decided, and yeah, I'm going to do it here in the building where the rest of it's going to topple down on top of me, right? Yeah. And then, I don't know what his plan was after that point. If he had succeeded and killed everyone in the room, was he just then going to walk off with his big metal mask on and just go, I'm going to cut about here now. No one's going to notice me, Mr. Subtle.
A Run DMC gig, no one will notice.
Third member of Daft Punk.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well, the villains were a bit... I'm talking about the henchman villains. I liked Orin, though. She was interesting. Again, underserved, but interesting nonetheless. The whole idea about her having finite lives like a video game character. Fair enough.
She was one of my favourite characters, actually, in this whole thing, because she seemed one of the most consistent and the one that does kind of learn a little bit by the end of it. I mean, it's only when she discovers that you do have a lifespan. It will eventually stop. One of these times, you're not going to come back. And that seems to be when she starts to maybe pick up her lessons a little bit.
Yeah.
But she seemed quite a sort of badass character. She was a little bit manipulative, a little bit this, that. So you were like, yeah, I kind of like her. And she seemed one of the better portrayed, really. I don't know, because she had the right balance of screen time, and she had some pretty good scenes between her and Maximus and her and Medusa, and you get to see her play against basically all the characters. So
yeah, she's a good midpoint between the hero and villain, hero in inverted commas, and villain story. And it was, I mean, they tried to manufacture a bit of motivation for her later on when they were like, remember when you were in the relationship with Gorgon? It's like, why do we need that? You know, like, the fact that he trained you is plenty. That's more than enough. It's all these confusing little decisions, but I like the fact that she was kind of loyal to Maximus's cause and then felt betrayed by him personally towards the end, and then that made her kind of think differently. Although I never got the impression that she was on anyone else's side, she just wasn't on Maximus's anymore. Yeah,
she just seemed to... But the Maximus, even for us, by the end, has kind of lost an idea of why he wanted to become king and what he wanted to do with that power. Which I'm sure you probably want to touch on, is the fact that his motivations, like you said at the beginning, he kind of went from being one of the best acted and the best motivated characters through the thing to being a bit like, what the hell happened? Where did the plan go awry? And he just started making everything up as he went along. It just seemed to go a bit weird. Because you're like, okay, does he wants to be king to have the power? No, he now wants to be king to go through Terrigenesis again, which may not work. And he's got a lab on Earth that's working on this that no one's found out about.
How he set that up is beyond me, but...
that confuses me. It's like, where's Maximus? Oh, he's down on Earth. Is he? No, totally not on Earth. Yeah. For a very closely done surveillance state that they have up there, he does seem to manage to organise a pretty good coup. But he just seems to lose his way. The whole thing is, I was promised I was going to be king, and you didn't want to, and then you did become king. How dare you? I don't know what his actual plot was by the end of it.
Well, it started off well enough. I mean, it started off with him being someone who wanted what was best for his people. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like the class system didn't work for everybody, although the argument was it was necessary for the survival of society, which you don't find out either way, but let's assume that someone has decided that, fair enough, this is the only way we can function as a society. Not everyone wins, but, we all survive, and that's enough. Fair enough. Maximus seemed to want to fix that in some way by giving other people opportunities. I mean, they established that if your powers aren't good enough, down the mines you go, which, okay, strange, but whatever. And then he was motivated by the fact that he felt like he was one of them because even though he is the brother to the king, he went through Terrigenesis and became human, which makes him ostracized from his entire people. Fine, again. And so throughout, it felt like he was doing things that he felt were necessary to make those changes. And then by episode 4 or 5, maybe it's a bit later than that, he starts yelling at statues and starts behaving like an idiot, behaving like a maniac, and he just descends into this pit of lunacy as it goes on, and it's crazy and I think it's almost like the writers had no idea how to make the royal family characters sympathetic, because they'd consistently failed to make these characters sympathetic. So the only way to finish this now is by establishing them as the lesser of two evils. And that's what it boils down to. These people are slightly less worse, slightly less bad than this guy. Or at least that's how it felt to me by the end.
Yeah, I mean, that is... because I remember this from when we talked about the first couple of episodes. And it's like the royal family are in the wrong at the beginning of this. They are treating people badly. And they still, by the end, haven't quite learned. They don't seem to accept that. The only thing you get is Black Bolt kind of remains as... as long as he can as the captain of the ship. He tries to go down with the ship at the end and then runs off. So that seems to be about it. But he didn't sacrifice himself to save the people. The people were already gone, so I still don't think that was as much of a lesson. He just sort of accepts that, yes, we've got to go to Earth, which is kind of accepting Maximus's position by the end of it. For us to survive. He was forced into it by the sort of collapse, but, you know, the sort of society collapse seemed it was going to be imminent anyway. It wouldn't so much have been the dome, but the society thing seemed that it was going to come up on him at some point.
You never really got a sense of what the people thought about the situation. Do they prefer Maximus as a leader? Do they prefer Black Bolt? Which side of it do they fall under? Who do they rally behind? I mean, you got a little bit of that when he conscripted them as henchmen, because they wanted to improve their standing in society a little bit. But in terms of the general population, because not everyone's like militant, so what did people want? What do the Inhumans want? Do they want to stay on Atalan because it's their home? Do they want to leave? Do they want to be treated a bit better? Or are they kind of happy with their lives? Do they accept everything? You just never find out.
No, and the way they shoot there doesn't really help, because you see a lot of the vistas and squares, which I presume is the posher upper class sorts. So you're not really seeing the miners apart from the very small gaggle that you see at the beginning when they're revealing their, you know, what powers did you get. In that scene, but you don't really see anything the rest of the time from their point of view, which I think would have been more interesting, even if you had had Medusa and someone from the lower class sent to Earth together, potentially, so that they sort of learn off of them what it's like, or what they feel, and that would have given maybe a view from that side. I'm trying to think of how they could have included it without it being overly clunky.
Well, if anybody was going to understand the plight of the lower classes, it would be Medusa, because that's where she came from.
Yeah.
But she seems to forget about that. The fact that her parents were, inverted commas, banished for trying to do what Maximus is doing should resonate with her in some way. You know, she should have an opinion on it. And ultimately, it just seems like she married the king and then just was like, well, this is fine. It's not happening to me anymore.
Yeah, actually, it now works. Yeah. I'm very pro this system.
And there was all this, she'll do whatever she can to protect Crystal stuff. It didn't come across because their sisterly bond doesn't exist. You just don't see it. And that's the problem. I can't invest in anything these people are talking about because you don't see it. You don't see it play out. You don't see it go anywhere. You know, like, there's never a sense that these characters know each other beyond little bits and pieces. You know, Karnak and Gorgon are familiar-ish. Like they seem like friends. Medusa and Black Bolt, they clearly have a history. Crystal doesn't interact meaningfully with anyone at all. Maximus doesn't get to spend much time interacting with the cast at all. Certainly the main cast, he interacts with various genetic council people that I don't care about, but he doesn't really interact with anybody until the last... Well, at the first episode he interacts with everybody, and then the last episode he interacts with Medusa and Black Bolt, and that's it. Or is that it?
That sounds about it to me.
Yeah. So the thing is, you're supposed to have this kind of brotherly struggle, you know, brother against brother and ideology against ideology, but it doesn't work because you don't get the sense that they're brothers because you never see them as brothers. Like, as much as I don't like the Thor film, the first one, Thor and Loki, believable as brothers, completely. You know, it works from that point of view because they do the work, they spend the time, you know, they do a bit of time building up the fact that they were close, they have a relationship, and then they use it, whereas this doesn't. And the closest analogue is Thor, because even the ending of the third one is very similar to Thor Ragnarok. The ending of the last episode is very similar to Thor Ragnarok.
I think even the line is in there, spoiler for people that haven't seen Thor Ragnarok yet. I imagine you all have. If you've been watching Inhumans, it's because you're a diehard Marvel fan. You've seen it by now.
Yeah, you'll have seen Thor Ragnarok.
It's the only reason. It wasn't for the drama. then, I think the line is almost in there. Atalan is the people, not the place, kind of thing. I'm like, well, they must have filmed that before they saw 4, because it's a very similar... If it's not that kind of line, it's very close.
Tell you what, though, Earth's got some refugee crisis. Asgardians, Inhumans, what's going on? Where are all these things coming from?
All arriving at once.
Yeah. Although Inhumans are already there, thanks to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, I don't think we'll see these characters again.
Do you know what? If they could integrate something or do cameo stuff and tie it in with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something along those lines...
That's the only chance, I think. I don't think we're going to get another season of this.
I think that's the only way it's going to happen, considering they cancelled stuff like Agent Carter.
Yeah.
And they've made this. You're like, okay, well... Fair enough, I suppose, but yeah, I don't think it'll go out again. And I do have the feeling that the only reason this got made is because they had promised it at a Comic-Con, and they didn't want it to seem like a climb down.
Well, it was on the slate when I think Civil War was announced. It was, 2020, the Inhumans film will appear, and then eventually they took it off the release list, and then eventually it became this. And I don't know, you hire the showrunner who does Iron Fist, which is probably not a good idea. Although at the time they hired him, I hadn't seen Iron Fist, so I was like, right, fair enough, whatever. He's in the family, cool. It'll be fine. But it turns out he's just not very good at plotting and making good characters and all that stuff. It was just this thing was just a disappointment. I love the Inhuman characters in the comics. I think they're really interesting. The stories are very grand and very regal, and they do deal with these social issues. They deal with how do humans and Inhumans, mutants, that's another issue, coexist. How does that happen? What does it mean? Like, they're essentially a gated community where they're introduced, although they're not on the moon. When they're introduced, Atalan is just somewhere, it's hidden, but it's somewhere, like, I can't remember where it is. But it does get trapped under a dome, interestingly. But that's an accident. That's another story. But they're interesting characters. What you've got is, you've got the plight of this ruler in Black Bolt who tries to figure out how to lead his people, how to make a better life for them. And they've been beefed up a lot lately because Inhumans were introduced in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so they appear in the comics a lot more now. And again, they've always got stuff to do. They were quite closely tied to the Fantastic Four originally. Crystal was in a relationship with Johnny Storm and things like that, so he was her introduction to the human world and all that stuff, which obviously you can't get here because Disney haven't bought Fox yet, so they haven't got the Fantastic Four back yet. That is another story, by the way. That is something.
It's the increase in them using Inhumans, even in the comics, I think, is down to the fact that they don't have the rights to mutants for TV and film. I have the feeling that's why they've increased Inhumans appearing in a lot of the comic plots. And even another reason for this to be around is they need to introduce Inhumans to everyone so that when they go, oh, this person is a mutant. Oh, no, they're not a mutant, they're an Inhuman. That way we can get around it. We can introduce some very similar powered people and get around the fact that we're not technically allowed to use them.
They're basically the same. The only difference is that Terrigenesis has to occur in order to trigger an Inhuman's powers, whereas mutants, they just develop them naturally as they go on. It's fine. I mean, once you get past that trigger point, you've got essentially the same thing. So what you can have is the human-mutant conflict, but told through Inhumans. It's essentially the same thing, and they play around with a bit of it here. I mean, you've got the whole racism thing, and you've got the idea that, I forget Dave's girlfriend's name, but she's like resentful of Crystal because, I don't know, because she's attractive, I suppose. But it kind of falls flat when it's just two white girls fighting over a white guy.
Yeah,
the subtext kind of fails.
I didn't get. Once again, I didn't quite get that either. Where the vet goes in and goes, "Oh my god, is a massive dog," and then the falling out point seems to be when they want to use it to teleport away. She goes in half and goes, "Well, actually, now I'm going to call the police." Only now am I going to call the police about the teleporting dog. I didn't call them when I went over to get my kit bag or whatever. I'm going to call them now. Because it looks like you're going to get back with my ex, and I wanted to get back with my ex, and now I'm jealous. It's weird the weird subplots in this are just odd. It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, it's one of those things. I don't know if I don't know if some of that was laying groundwork for potentially what they were going to do next. If there's a plan somewhere currently being put onto a dusty shelf, a la sort of Raiders of the Lost Ark styley, currently being wheeled into the back of Marvel Towers to be never seen again.
Yeah.
Whether they were setting all this up so that now that they are on Earth, you're going to have that, or you were going to have that mutant human style conflict where they're going, well, now there's even more of them. Now this is a problem, or they want to become a separate nation, but all the nations are currently taken. So how does that work?
They just live in a little corner in Hawaii.
It would almost be a more interesting conflict for the future, but I have the feeling we're not going to see that unless it pops up as a subplot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they do a weird crossover thing. But the chances are, if they were to do it, they wouldn't have the budget to go big on it. It would need to be the B grade Inhumans that come in.
Well, you say that, but like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. aren't shy on using Inhuman powers. I mean, look at I don't know how far you've watched, but look at Daisy. She's using her Quake powers every other week. The guy, you know.
I'm not so much talking about the powers. I'm more thinking of the actors and getting them in. You know,
the reason they were hired is they're ostensibly TV actors, so it's fine. Like I don't think they're that expensive. You could probably do a 3 or 4 episode arc on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. quite happily that deals with the Inhumans. Or maybe just 1 or 2 of them. Just have Black Bolt turn up. Although why the hell you would do that, I don't know. I don't know, maybe Black Bolt and Agent May could sit around not talking to each other. That'd be nice. I would like to say I'd watch that, but no. No, I would watch that, but under duress. I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't feel good about watching it.
I don't know, it would be a good one shot of, I don't know, May interrogating Black Bolt and just trying to stare him down, him staring her down, just cutting between 2 sides of the desk for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny to watch, I don't know.
But there's also there's also the undercurrent of these are the real Inhumans, in inverted commas. I say that a lot, inverted commas. I've turned up a lot in this podcast. But these are the real Inhumans, whereas the Earthbound ones are kind of imitations. That's the implication. You know, there's even internal racism. It's like, yeah, these Earth ones are like mongrels, you know, like, and we're the real Inhumans.
They're like a fifth Inhuman, and therefore their powers are slightly weaker, and they're not as good, and they're not
but we don't use
genetically
ours, so
different. Yeah, we have awesome powers. We just keep them well hidden. It's fine.
It's like Gorgon didn't have hoofs because he was wearing shoes the whole bloody time. Karnak, didn't use his. Crystal probably had most of the power usage.
That's true, yeah.
Her elemental powers.
Yeah, and then you've got Black Bolt, who knocks down one building at the end.
Yeah, or knocks over a police car. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, at the beginning, the police car. Sorry, I forgot about the police car at the beginning. The accidental police car destruction. Yeah.
I was in hysterics when he said "goodbye, brother." It was supposed to be this like really emotionally hefty, weighted moment, and it was just so funny.
It was. I was like, well, what's he going to say, or is he just going to go boo and take him down? I didn't know, and I don't envy them in the writers' room going, well, he's going to use his powers and he's going to speak, and it's going to be the big climax moment for this. What should we make him say? Would you love to see that whiteboard? What phrases they put down there?
Yeah, it was. And it was weird because you were like 4 episodes in, and they were like, this guy has the potential to destroy the entire city just by speaking. It's like, that sounds amazing. Can't we see that? Like,
yeah, let's see him obliterate the entire place. No, the one building kind of topples. In
a better story, it would have been him that destroyed Attilan because it would have been his choice. Our people need to move on. He speaks. Attilan falls apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incidentally, what happened to the wall-face guy? Did he just die? What was he?
Does Wall-face guy need to breathe?
I don't know.
It's a wall-faced guy just still sitting there going, everyone's gone, and I'm just here.
But I know what the character is in the comics, or at least I vaguely remember.
Well, it's a big head where he opens his mouth and people go through, isn't that? Am I thinking of the right character there?
Yeah, Eldrac.
Yeah.
He
I
does
get
the
why
evacuation of about 10 people. That's all you see at the end.
Yeah. I mean, you never get a sense of the scale of the numbers that are in there, because even when you see the scene with the folk in the mines, there's maybe about 20 people down that little sort of ditch. When you see the scenes of them walking about the courtyard, there'll normally be about 20 people and maybe 5 guards, or the 5 additional characters plus the 20. So you never get the scale of this is a city that is so teeming with people that they've got to have a caste system, otherwise everyone would be in a huff.
Yeah.
It's like, we're sorry, you 20 people. It's like the rest of us are up here. And
Did you not mention it's like 10,000 or something like that?
But it doesn't seem
it doesn't.
like that from the way it's shot. It seems that it's a very quiet place, unless everyone is in the subterranean land. And that's
you've got those 2 people that sit in that room with the water.
Who were they? Who were they? They left at the end. Right, the 2 stools are sitting there, and you're like, we didn't even see them stand up. It's like, surely you could say that even these 2 people that have calmly sat there while folk have been massacred in front of them and have done nothing. At some point, someone went, no, seriously, you pair, you're going to have to leave. Like, the city's about to crumble.
Like the Buckingham Palace guards. They're not allowed to react.
Or even if you saw, like, 2 people come in and pick them up off the seats and carry them out. And just see them on 2 deck chairs at the end. When they pan out the shot, they've got them sitting there on 2 deck chairs on the grass. Just do something with it.
We need to find we need to find a shallow pool of water to guard.
Yeah, or have them both sitting at the end or standing as part of the lineup at that end there. It's like they're just gone. 2 seats are there. You either show them like being there until the end because for some reason they're impossible to move, or show them in that last shot.
Yeah.
There's crazy. 2 people currently sitting in a bar somewhere in LA going, we were both in the Inhumans TV show. Oh, cool. What part did you play? Long story, but...
Well, the first question isn't what part did you play, it's what the hell is the Inhumans TV show?
Yeah, so I've been filming something for Marvel. Oh, sure. What have you been doing?
Inhumans? What?
Yeah.
I don't watch it. It's rubbish. But it was bizarre. A lot of it was just bizarre.
But from the comics, I mean, are they characters from there that they've just reinterpreted? Or?
I honestly don't remember.
Right, well, that's fair enough. It's like, so I'm not sure.
It's been a while since I read kind of early Inhuman stuff. I see them crop up now and again, and you've got New Atalan, which I think is a floating island or something, or an airship or something. It flies. I know it flies. I can't remember what.
Well, it crashed outside of New York. It was like floating outside of New York for a bit, wasn't it?
I haven't read that far.
Or an equivalent.
Yeah, I just... I don't know. I'm quite far behind on current Marvel comics. I just haven't caught up. Mostly because they're unreadable. For the most part. That's another story. So yeah, this show. What have we not talked about? Louise. The best thing about the show was Louise. Also known as Discount Felicity.
I was about to say low budget Felicity Smoke.
she's like blonde, she wears glasses, she's a scientist. Steals cars. Weirdly, she just steals cars and is okay with it. But I don't know, that she had the shapings of an interesting story arc about her dad wanting to make it to the moon and never did, and it's weird that she got cut from the IMAX release, so we had no idea who she was.
Yeah, but you sent me a message going, actually, you might need to watch the 2 episodes that we've seen again, otherwise there's going to be characters popping up here that you've got no idea about. And I was like, yeah, thank God I did that. I mean, I kind of felt a little bit cheated at the end. I thought she should have got to go to the moon at the end. Yeah. Like, surely that would have been a more poignant thing for her to be placing her dad's rocket on the moon rather than Medusa sort of covering it in rocks next to a memorial before running off.
Did you get the impression that she was kind of attracted to Medusa in some way? You know, there was some kind of attraction there, at least one-sided.
No, not really.
It was particularly in the last episode when Medusa showed up and she seemed all like, oh, look, you know, her eyes were full of wonder and all that. But I kind of got that impression that she was into Medusa in some way. Maybe
it could have been. I mean, I didn't know if it was more like, oh, I thought I was never going to see you again, and this was going to be a story that I couldn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Though I still don't understand from that final episode. It's like, who did our boss contact to authorise? Yeah, we've got a load of aliens coming over from the moon.
The boss, whoever the hell.
The
that
boss.
is.
Can we contact the boss? And I didn't get the idea whether the boss was supposed to be the president, whether the boss was supposed to be Tony Stark, whether the boss was supposed to be Gary, who runs this international space company. You know, I don't know I don't know who the boss is.
It seems like Stark would have discovered Atalan in an afternoon. You know, it wouldn't have taken him that long. He just hasn't looked at the moon, so he doesn't know it's there. But if he did, he'd find it instantly.
Yeah, he's been busy. Tony's been busy. That's to be fair to him. You know, there's a lot of things that have gone under his radar. So,
yeah, I suppose teasing who the boss is something for season 2. That we will never see. There's also the talk of a threat from beyond the stars or something, which has got to be the Kree, because the Kree are responsible for creating the Inhumans in the first place. So it can only be them. So there we go. I've spoiled that long reveal for you. It was like, I don't know, in an alternate universe, we're having another podcast about season 2 of Inhumans where I'm like, told you, when it turns out to be the Kree. But based on the trailer for season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there's going to be quite a heavy Kree presence there. Because they are also in space. Everyone's in space right now. Which is cool. I don't mind. I don't know. There's... Yeah, Louise. Louise, good character. She kind of took on the audience perspective every now and again, where she was just like, this is crazy. What's going on? Who are you? Why are you talking like this? And then there's a bit where... I forget the chick's name, but the tracking one, Loka or whatever, I don't know what her name was. And she was talking about, it's like, well, as soon as it was discovered that I was essentially a bloodhound, I became a bloodhound, and then I wasn't allowed to do anything else. And it's like, well, why would you want to do anything else?
But also, on that city, is there much need for a bloodhound?
Yeah, do things get lost that often? You know?
Yeah. Do people run? And if they do run, how long is it until they hit the edge of the dome and go, shit, I've run out of running space? At which point... any of them could go, there she is. That would be it. It's like, I'm the tracker. You know, it would more be funny if it was, I'm the tracker in a society which only has X amount of square feet to run in. You know,
I'm pretty sure
no
Gorgon
point.
can find people as well. He's like a master tracker, isn't he?
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, when the mood takes him. And Karnak is like able to deduce the location, the most probable location for someone to be.
But it was that ideal of, she can't do anything else because that's what society needs her to do. And what if I wanted to be a doctor? It's like, well, tough. And Louise is like, yeah, what if she did want to be a doctor? And it is that very much. And she would call out all the kind of mistakes that the mistaken assumptions that the Inhuman characters would have, but they would never do anything about it. She would just sit there and comment on it. It's almost like she was not written by the writers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, she was kind of a conscience, and she would sort of say that things are wrong or that society over there is wrong. But I had the feeling that Medusa was listening to her, but then that didn't really work into actions later, apart from a slight questioning of Black Bolt and the occasional, well, actually, I've learnt that we could do things differently, which is what it pretty much comes down to towards the end of it. But I do think she should have got up to the moon at the end. I think that would have been at least a little bit of fun to the point.
Well, it was a natural end point for her character, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's like that's going to wrap it up. Whereas I'm guessing the idea is that there's going to be some sort of different wrapping up towards, you know, that's what they were aiming for, is this is going to go a little bit further.
Yeah. Who knows? But Other human characters, you had Dr. Declan, he was alright. I like Henry Eden Cusick, if you've ever seen The 100, he's very good in that.
Yes.
He's just a good actor, and they didn't use him that well. I never quite figured out how Maximus was funding his lab.
I've got no idea how that had managed to happen in secret with no one knowing. Like, oh, one of our fancy watch bracelets thing appears to be on Earth.
Yeah.
Let's just send someone down to find out why. Oh, shit. He's working with Maximus. Maximus, hang him. Yeah, it's like, problem solved.
Yeah.
How do we find the bracelet? Send the Bloodhound. Oh, finally, a use for me. Yes, I get to go. It's, I don't know. It's
but the whole point of this character existing was to get Maximus through Terrigenesis that second time. And then he gets thrown into the chamber by Gorgon, is killed, and it's all forgotten about. So that goes nowhere. So it was just a complete waste of time. The lab was pointless. It didn't need to be there.
No, it needed to be there as a mechanism for Black Bolt to escape.
Yeah. He needed to have some kind of benefactor on Earth who was looking out for him who could break him out of prison.
Yeah.
And
they tied it in with Maximus's thing to be convenient so that Maximus would then know where Black Bolt was. Because if it wasn't the lab owned by the guy who was contacting Maximus, then Maximus wouldn't know where he bloody was at that point.
Yeah. And you had... Yeah, and like I said, the second Terrigenesis thing, but it ended up being an argument that doesn't matter. And the strangest thing about it was in the episode where Maximus was like, well, I'm going to choose what powers I'll get. It's like, well, turns out you don't really want to be Inhuman either then. Because that's the whole point. They don't get to choose. They get stuck with what they're stuck with. So, if Black Bolt got to choose, would he want to be a mute who can't speak unless he kills everyone? Would Medusa want really long hair? I suppose because she never cut it, and it was proved to be an option. Would Crystal want elemental powers on a planet on a moon where there are no elements? Things like that. Karnak might not want hooves. Not Karnak, Gorgon might not want hooves. So they don't get to choose, and that's something Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did much better. So you had people really having to come to terms with their abilities, whether they wanted them or not. So Daisy, she still gets to look attractive and make earthquakes, but it was Reyna, she didn't. She became Sonic the Hedgehog, essentially. Porcupine type thing, who could see the future. So not every Inhuman gets to have a cool power, and that's an interesting thing to play with. But Maximus is like, I'll just choose some. It's fine.
Yeah, I just find it a bit... And, the character that can predict Maximus's future and see the little cutscenes, I kind of saw the point of for a little bit, and I thought it was going to go differently, and they were going to be more interesting with it. Showing some alternate future, or either that, I thought they were going to be really, really cheesy and suddenly wrap the whole thing up with him taking his hands off his head and going, oh no, you don't want to do it that way, you want to do it this way.
Yeah,
there was a little bit at the back of my head that was like, if this is just him in the chamber doing this for the first time and going, oh well, how would this play out? I was going to feel even more cheated, or I didn't know if I'd be like, oh well, thank God they've got a second go at this.
Well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again did that whole future predicting Inhuman better, because they had several things seeded throughout a season that were going to come to pass, and there was nothing they could do to stop them, and that's essentially what they were doing there, although I did have some fun with the whole interpretation thing. So what you had was he gets told that he's the undisputed king of Atalan, which is exactly what happens, because there's no one there to dispute him. And he's just stuck underground. So, there's that kind of, the irony of him getting everything he wanted, but not in the way that he wanted it. That was, again, in the better show, that would have been like, haha, suits you, serves you right. But in this show, it's like, oh, right, I've stopped caring. Stopped caring long ago.
Yeah, annoyingly, you've left him alive to appear in any sequel that you do.
Yeah, if only we had a teleporting dog, it will turn out that the Kree will turn up and Maximus will have information that will help them stop the Kree. So they'll go in with Lockjaw, retrieve him, and promise to put him back in the hole that they left him in at the end of the season once they've resolved the issue.
Yeah.
You know, the Loki syndrome. It's like,
there's only one person that knows how this works, and it's him. Darn. Again.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've jumped about a bit, and we've talked a lot about the characters and the story and how rubbish it all was, but were there any personal highlights for you? I mean, there had to be. There has to be something that you liked. And we've established that we both kind of like Louise, so we'll take her off the board.
Louise, Lockjaw, I thought was pretty fun. I just liked a big silly dog lumping about the place. I thought that was great. You know, they did that pretty neat. You know, when you see it in the comics, strategically deployed dog. You know, when you see it in the comics, you're like, oh, there's no way they're going to be able to do that properly. But I was kind of like, actually, that's pretty cool. I like that. Other bits that I liked. It's tough, really. There were a few fight scenes that I thought were quite well choreographed that I enjoyed. Actually, the thing is that a lot of this has been the skeleton of something quite good, but not made flesh. You know, there's elements of this that could have worked really, really well, but they just didn't fill it out perfectly. And I think that's what's kind of disappointing me a little bit. I'm sure there are good little scenes in there that I've just not written down to go, all right, I really like that one moment. Maybe you've written the list.
Nope.
How's your list? No, you've not.
Well, I did. It's called 8 episodes worth of reviews. I liked Lockjaw as well. He was cool. He was the only character that didn't annoy me at any point. But, you know, having him put off screen by being hit by a quad bike or just lying about in a barn or being somewhere that wasn't there, I guess was alright. You can understand why for budget reasons, but still, you know, it's a bit of a cop-out. What else did I like? Can't say Louise. I'm not allowed to say Louise. Yeah, the odd fight scene here and there was okay. I did like Karnak as a character, as it turned out, especially towards the end. I didn't like him at first, but there was little shades of characterization in there that I liked. His tattoos being representing the last mistake he ever made before he went through Terrigenesis. That was nice. Every time he looks in the mirror, he sees a mistake he made. That was a nice little moment. You know, it's a reminder that he is above all that now, or used to be above all that, and now he's back in a position where he's making mistakes. Gorgon was alright. It just, everything they had him do was rubbish. I also still don't know how he walks about on the surface of the moon without a spacesuit. Because he does. He goes out and steals stuff and brings it back and stomps on rovers and whatever else, but he doesn't seem to have a spacesuit. Not that we see. That's about it, highlight-wise.
Yeah, I suppose you didn't see a suit, did you? It was just a hoof.
Well, you see a blur that hits... yeah.
But maybe they've got some kind of wearable shield thing.
Well,
let's rewrite this in our heads again.
Yeah. There had to be some kind of spacesuit. Because if they could breathe on the moon, then...
Well, some wearable air bubble thing that they can put round a la the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. Some wearable air suit thing that they can use temporarily to go walkies and then go back in.
It's one option, I suppose. But yeah, that's about it for highlights for me. I can't think of anything else I especially liked. Anson Mount did a good job with what he was given, which wasn't much. For a character that was inconsistent, he played it well, I suppose. They were all inconsistent, but he played it pretty well. Yeah, I'm struggling here. There wasn't that much that was good about it. Low lights are just everything we've mentioned. Can you think of anything else that you just especially might have liked? Just as a last thing.
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure I might remember something later, but no. At the moment, there's nothing that's jumping out at me that I thought was awesome.
Yeah, I'm not going to remember this show for very long. So with it being a Marvel show, you would think it would have some connection to the universe it lives in. It kind of doesn't, actually. Although they do mention there's Inhumans appearing on Earth and they don't know why. And then they never find out. So Cool.
Yeah, it's they sort of tie in a little bit to the Agency S.H.I.E.L.D. thing because they had to mention the Inhumans that were, or the sort of faux Inhumans that are running about on Earth, I think. But the rest of it, they seem to be in ignorance of, which is an issue that I raised when we talked about the first two episodes, of the fact that they just seem completely ignorant to everything that's going on Earth.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they have the ability to watch everything that's going on Earth, and they seem to be in contact with people on Earth, or some of them appear to be in contact with people on Earth, they've got no idea how the system works. So, yeah, the fact that they don't know means that the chance of references is a bit slimmer. I think there's odd bits. I think if you watch close on the TVs that are playing and the newspaper articles maybe, and I think there's odd references within that, but that's about it.
Yeah, on the whole not understanding Earth culture thing, that was horribly inconsistent. As we mentioned in the previous podcast, there was the Medusa knew what a bus was, even though she had no reason to, but didn't know what a mobile phone was.
Yeah, despite the fact she's got an equivalent that's wrapped around her wrist, she doesn't know what a mobile phone is. She thinks ATMs work by speaking to them and just demanding them. See, that was that. There's a scene I liked.
Give me money.
Yeah, there's a scene I liked. Yeah, I'm the Queen of Atalan. Give me money. The machine. It's. I just was like that. That was a little bit fun. I did like that scene, but like you say, it's inconsistent with everything else, and you think they would be researching Earth, they would be watching, surely. They're not sitting there in blissful ignorance. So it just seemed a bit funny to me, that. It was a bit odd.
Yeah, I've actually just remembered something else I quite liked. When you see the destruction of Atalan, and it's completely silent, it's a brief 2-3 seconds of the buildings collapsing. And it's completely silent to indicate that the dome is shattered, so there's no atmosphere anymore, so there's no sound. That was nice. That was quite effective, just from an execution point of view, I suppose. Yeah,
from the fact that they were in the vacuum, so there was no noise. I kind of liked seeing bits of the dome sort of falling in a bit. When you suddenly see that, actually, it's a bit like they've done with the helicarriers. It's like bits of plating and cameras pointing out that are put in the picture there, and I thought that was a little bit neat, showing the design.
Yeah, and I also liked that scene in the finale between Medusa and Maximus, where they talked about how she was his only friend way back, and that she was like, I was a bad friend, but like we're here now, so I don't care. And and she comes across as ridiculous as ever, but it was a nice little moment that kind of let the actors play a bit, do a bit of acting. I mean, maybe you don't.
It did seem like a bit of an ultimatum that was never going to be met, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a crystal. I will let you go through it. No, I don't want to go through it after all of this being about me going through it again. No, I've decided no. The dome's going to come down and we're all going to die. I was just like, okay, well, fair enough. Yeah. I don't understand. It's like the motivations are all for me. That's what I kind of read. But that was another bit of sort of rewriting. When you get that I only went into that chamber to see that you were as broken as I was, and then to actually I was Maximus's only buddy at the time as well.
Yeah. It's awkward. But it's over. So in terms of the wider universe, I can't think of any other reference. The boss might relate to someone or something that we know. I think the Kree are the big bad that's waiting in the wings, although we'll never find out. That was about it. There was possibly a mention of a company or something here and there that exists in Marvel canon, but other than that, it was set in Hawaii.
I think they've purposefully kept it out of a lot of stuff to see how it goes. I do have the feeling a lot of these shows that when they get their first season, they're told to, right, you can refer to this and you can mention this, but keep it in isolation up until we see how well it's received.
Yeah. That's about it, I think. I think we've torn this apart as much as possible. It's been a fairly depressing conversation because there's just nothing to like about this almost. We are 2 of 10 people probably that are watching this damn thing, and as I said, the other 8 are also paid to review it. Because you've got AV Club, I think Den of Geek are covering it, a few other places, but no one else is watching it, so, whatever. You shouldn't watch it. If you haven't watched it and you've listened to this thing, don't watch it. In case you didn't get that vibe from this whole conversation.
Yeah, this is not recommended.
Yeah. Although, it's over and might never come back, so that's my positive end note.
I'll laugh if tomorrow there's an announcement from Marvel saying
Inhumans Season 2.
Inhumans Season 2 is on! 24 episode run!
Oh my god. To debut in 2018. It's like, please. Oh no.
Followed by 2 movies.
Inhumans to appear in Infinity War. In next summer, on a Marvel movie, you can watch some guy standing around not speaking. Some woman whose hair hasn't grown back yet.
We just want Lockjaw. That's all we want.
That's it. Bring us Lockjaw. That's how they get to Scotland.
Yes, please. I keep forgetting that Scotland's going to feature in Infinity War. If it is like 2 shots, I'm going to be so disappointed considering the amount of time they spent exploding a shop on the Royal Mile.
Yeah, especially with if it's like World War Z type disappointment, then we as a nation will be shamed.
Yep. If it's Edinburgh as Edinburgh, that'll be pretty cool. If it's Edinburgh as we've decided this is some weird alien planet.
No, I think they've kept it as Scotland because they built like fake kebab shops instead of real kebab shops.
I did.
But that's, again, next year we'll talk about Infinity War.
Yay! And
eventually, and we'll be talking about things that we might be a bit more positive about in the near future as well. Justice League's coming up. Could go either way. Star Trek Discovery next week. Well, I'm talking about recording schedules. I have no idea when I'll get around to publishing these. We've got stuff coming up. Is what I'm getting at here. So I want to start a thing, or I think I started the thing last time, where we just kind of try and end on a positive note because positive people live longer. I know with this show it's hard, but do you have a positive note to close on?
It was only 8 episodes.
I'll take it. It may never come back. That's my...
Wow, we're doing so well with the positive notes. I'm getting the vibes. I'm getting the positive vibes.
Okay, I'll do better. I would like to see these characters return in a Marvel Cinematic Universe Fantastic Four movie. There we go. And on that note, so Chris, thanks for joining for this very morose discussion on a show we didn't like.
No problem.
Thank you, listeners, if you listened. Although, if you're any of the other 8 people that watch this show, then well done, guys. Well done. You got through.
Black Bolt's here, and he says thanks for listening.
Oh, Black Bolt was a guest on this podcast.
Yeah, he was. Did you not hear his contributions? He was giving a lot of good advice. Actually, it's a very good point.
I sometimes translated for him, although sometimes didn't. The good thing about his sign language is I don't really understand it, so I just make it up.
Yeah,
much like the show did. Anyway, on that note, so Chris, thanks for joining.
You're welcome. Goodbye, brother.
Wow, the whole world just crashed down around me.
I can add echo. If you want shit echo, I can do shit echo. Hang on. Where's the button for the shit echo? There we go. Goodbye, brother.
So, that was our mostly negative discussion on Marvel's Inhumans. We hope you enjoyed, and if you did, then hit that subscribe button on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app. We hope you'll join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.